Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Phoenix Club.
Yay.
Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Phoenix Pod.
Hello, it's the Phoenix Pod. Hello,
Can't use these bloody things.
it's the Phoenix Pod. I realised I did this for sort of like when we were actually doing Phoenix nights, but you know, it's a goodie. Oldies are goodies.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can't beat them, pity. Yes, this is the Phoenix Pod. We are back once again for episode 3 of that Peter Kay thing. As we look at the Ice Cream Man Cometh.
Woo!
I am, of course, your host, AXC, joined once again by a man who is half a man.
Did we get it? Nearly got it. We'll get in there. We'll get there by the end of it all. By the time we cover the last episode of Road to Nowhere, we'll get there. This time next year, we'll be in sync.
He's a man who is stupid. He's apparently sexy. And he's wearing nothing at all.
Nothing at all.
Except
Stupid, sexy Flinders.
Stupid, sexy me. But I'm actually wearing some today that my mother gave me. It's a really random daft T-shirt. It says "Newt Newt motherfucker." Don't know why. It's not one of these things that normally your mother would give you. Say, here's a T-shirt with the word "motherfucker" on it. Okay, Mum. Thanks for that. It says "motherfucker" on it. Thanks, Mum.
Well, it's just evidence that she's got a sense of humour.
Well, you got to with your scouts. Which she is, to be fair. Which makes me half scout.
And of course, the other voice you can hear, he is the stowaway.
Yes, stowing away more times than a legal immigrant trying to get from Dover to Calais. Or Calais to Dover.
He's a more illegal immigrant than Senor Whippy.
I wouldn't go that far, bloody hell. I am British born and bred. Just like to get about, that's all.
It's Lewis Ogden.
How's thou doing?
We're doing fine.
Yeah. That's seems as I'll join in with sort of like describing the attire that I'm wearing. I'm currently wearing the goalkeeping shirt of this year of the current Premier League champions
defending
Premier League champions who will be given the title this evening, which is why we're doing the podcast a little bit earlier, so I'm able to watch it.
Hey.
But yeah, I am wearing my Liverpool Football Club goalkeeper shirt. Suck it, Bunkle, and not Daz.
And I can somewhat join in with this because I'm sort of like my second team is Liverpool. Obviously, my first team's Blackpool. I mean, as a kid, I used to support Liverpool, so you know it was one of them. You know, as a kid, you somewhat glory support, don't you? So my family's from Liverpool, so I can get away with it.
Yeah.
So, but I supported Liverpool back in the dark days, so.
Well, speaking of awards, after tracing the current chart positions, the Phoenix Pod is ranked in the UK charts on iTunes and TV and film. Well, our last look, we're about 249, but that's okay.
That's fine. That's charting. That's better than what we've.
But then on some sad news, we dropped out the charts in Ireland.
Oh, boo!
So it's all right. I'm pretty sure that Matthew Kelly turns up on the next episode, so we should.
We up that demographic. We can up that demographic.
Oh dear. So yes, this is the Ice Cream Man Cometh. Original air date the 26th of January, the year 2000. No. Robert Edge is Mr. Softy Top, your traditional ice cream man, who is passionate about ice cream and about the pornographic films he rents out from his freezer as a sideline.
And emphasising the pornographic thing with the soundtrack in the background as describing him. Which is very sort of porno sax, if you get what I mean.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. A bit of smooth porno sax.
26th of November 2000 was that, Coxy?
January.
Oh, January. Oh, right. I thought it was November for whatever reason. I was going to say, that was it was 16 days after my 7th birthday, when in actuality it wasn't. But, hey ho.
Now, if you do your maths very carefully, you can work out how old he is.
Oh,
he's a baby.
Well, compared to you other old fuckers, yes.
Absolutely, and I'm probably the oldest of the bunch. But, oh no, Christ is slightly older than me, isn't he? So
yes,
only slightly.
So, with this episode, we get an opening shot of Mr. Softy Top riding along in his van as he drives towards the camera, and it gives them the sort of wave to move out of the way.
Move,
before the cameraman takes a tumble and he shouts, "That weren't my fault, you should have moved."
you just see, I love the fact when I first watched this episode, because this is the first time I was watching it, it's sort of like, you just see the camera fall over, you just see smoke billowing from one side, and you think, what's a fucking van toppled over and exploded? And then you just realise, you just see the exhaust sort of just appear.
In shot.
And you just hear Mr. Softy going, or Mr. Edge, shall we say? Just I told you to move.
We also get the voiceover letting us know he dispenses ice cream for most of his life and is known as Softy.
Yes.
Or Robert Edge, as he's known in real life. I did have a sort of like a Google search of Robert Edge, and there is a Robert Edge that runs a window cleaning company. And it's not rated that highly.
So, things that make you go,
But we do get a monologue from Mr. Softy Top, though, which I've got here in full.
Oh, please indulge.
Which is, as he's driving along, we get, the arse has fallen out of this business. No one wants ice cream men anymore. Today it's all bloody Ben and Jerry's and Argan-Dazs. I know him from the right man will queue for the corner in the piss rain. They can get one at the spa anytime they like. At least I've stayed traditional. At least I've not sold out like the others. Selling hot dogs, burgers, bacon bombs, tea and coffee. My dad would turn his grave if we did that. That's sacrilege.
You don't mix sweet and savouries.
Yeah.
But then he says something about it's like mixing cross-ply with radio. It's just wrong, you don't do it.
Yeah, I was scratching my head at that. I didn't get it. Okay.
But then we jump to seeing Softy sat on some sort of country road with his a radio and his assistant Darren. He's helping Darren out with extra cash whilst he's at college, even though Darren looked about 40.
Yes.
I thought he looked like an incredibly young version of the UK comic Tim Vine. He sort of had like a Tim Vine-esque to him. And I initially thought it was Tim Vine until he started talking.
But interesting to note here is you get like a full body shot of Softy Top. He's in like camouflage pants, a Star Wars t-shirt, and like a white lab coat.
Yeah, it's a Phantom Menace, isn't it?
It's either a Phantom Menace or a Darth Maul t-shirt.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not appropriate ice cream man attire.
No, it's not. It's not standard regalia, shall we say?
No.
It's not what you expect.
But there's also a bit here where they're talking about cars, and Darren's like, I'm thinking of getting this car. And he said, what are you thinking of getting? He's like, Peugeot. Peugeot? No, don't get a Peugeot. Peugeot's a shit. It's French, innit? Can't build cars, can't fight wars. Cowards, a lot of them. You want something British made? Get a Ford. A Ford Fiesta, that's what you want.
And immediately when he says British made, you're all of a sudden thinking, this isn't going to come back to bite him later on, is it?
No.
Well, it's quite funny because it's also sort of set up for, I think it's either something earlier on or something later on where he's like, I'm not racist or anything.
There is that. There's also foreboding as well because he's recommended that he gets something like a Ford. And the lad later on ends up turning up with a fucking Ford Fiesta, which doesn't start.
So the cameraman asks Darren what he's listening to, and he's like, emergency services. Whilst Softy Top's drawing up his plan for the Millennium Cone, which seems to be a double cornet with ice cream and 6 flakes on top. But this, the cameraman asks, why you put 7 flakes?
7.
And he looks and counts things. Can't think of it. Millennium Cone. Millennium Dome. Get it?
They're going to sell like hot busters at $1.50 a pop.
But then he says something like he does like designs a new ice cream every year, and he said, "Oh yeah, for 19.99 I did 2 flakes for 99p."
Oh dear.
And he hears something on the radio, and he goes, "This is us, come on!" As he sort of struggles to get everything in the van.
Well, no, Softy jumps into the driver's seat, and he leaves Darren to sort of like attempt to get the 2 deck chairs into the van,
the
which leads to Darren falling flat on his arse, which PK mentions in the commentary is actually legitimate. It is legitimate, the fact that Darren tumble, and they just decided to keep it in because it was that effective.
But then the cameraman does ask him what's happening, and he's like, "Trade!"
Just shouts trade.
It's just when he sticks his head out and he's like, where have you gone? And he's just lying in the ditch. So we're then in the back of Softy's van, and we get the voiceover of, "Times are hard for Mr. Softy Top. He'll do anything to make ends meet." Which then Darren says something, I don't know whether it's to do with him like falling in the ditch or not. And then you hear Softy say, "Shut up, you big girl."
And you can see sort of like out of the windscreen that they're turning up at the scene of an accident because there's like a police cordon. And Darren just goes to Softy, is like, "Can't believe you're doing this again." And Softy just goes, "Hey, when there's tragedy, there's trade. I've got some respect. I've not got my chimes on."
But he says, "Life, young Darren, is risk. Come on, we might shift some of these flakes." Then we see him serve, and he said, "Get your hand off that counter. Right, what do you want?" Yeah, 2 whiskers, please.
Police officer turns up and is like, "Hey, you can't be selling here." And Softy just goes, "Well, this is that's my house. That I'm just parked outside here." And the copper just goes, "Yeah, and I'm
Bob Carragreves."
Bob Caragreves, yeah.
Caragreves, yeah. Which is his. It must be his day. His every episode he must mention. He must mention Bob Caragreves.
It's a running bit that sort of like I don't know whether it pays off in episode 5 because I neglected to say before we started recording because I said this to Paul earlier. I normally just sort of like watch the episode that we're going to be recording. So I watch it once with sort of like, the actual episode, and I'll watch it a second time with the commentary just to see if there's anything significant. And then after watching that episode, I sort of like, I bit the bullet a little bit and watched the next 2. And there's a couple more mentions of Bob Caragreves and then sort of like a special guest spot, which we will cover in a later episode.
We'll have to make it like the Phoenix Pod drinking game. Let's like take a shot every time Bob Caragreves is mentioned. And then down your drink when he appears, or well, if he appears. Just
net the bottle.
So I'm Bob Caragreves. Come on, get a shift. Then we jump to a short time later via a fade, and he's still surfing. And the cop reapproaches and says, "Oi, what have I told you?" Which then says, "If I don't sell ice creams, I don't pay taxes. I don't get away, then you're out of a job. It's simple." But then he says, "This is the police state," and then points to the camera and says, "I'm glad you're here. You'd have another Rodney King on your hands if you weren't here."
Oh dear.
So for those who don't know, Rodney King was an American who was a victim of police brutality by the Los Angeles Police Department in 1991.
Oh dear.
Just quite topical.
Yeah, just a bit.
And the cop just says, "Zip it, mouth. Zip it."
Which on the commentary they say ends up being used in Phoenix Nights. That line in particular. Just for some reason Peter Kay points it out. Like, yeah, that got used in Phoenix Nights. I was like, bit of a throwaway, but yeah, okay. Bit of a strange thing to point out.
Well, shut up, you girl is definitely sort of like, a staple of.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Season 1 Phoenix Nights, anyway.
So then,
it was like a Potterism, that wasn't it? So
we see the van parked up elsewhere, and we hear some money rattling as Softy's chatting to Darren about how many points he has in his license, which is 10 because of that on the spot fine.
Because of the on the spot fine, he's only made a tenner.
Yeah,
I've made a tenner today. I've paid out more than I've made. It's only its arse's business, I tell you. If it weren't for videos, I wouldn't make any money. And the cameraman just says, like, videos? Yeah, videos. Yeah. I rent out videos. So what, you mean like a mobile library? They're not what you... Then Darren's just, the pornos. They're not pornos.
Adult
art. Art. Adult art of a variety. So then Darren's like, whatever floats your boat. Like, once I got my head round it, like, I'd have customers coming up and asking for a big feast or strawberry splits and screwballs. And then they wanted porn films or something to suck on. And then Softy just says, or both.
Or both. Softy's just sort of like, he opens up his like big, like one compartment of like a chest freezer that he's got in the middle, and it's just all full of videos. He's just there going, oh, it's quality, hot stuff. And then you just hear Darren in the background going, yeah, that's why he keeps it in the fridge.
They're all good though. They're always out. It's like we've got Beverly Hills Cock, Shaving Private Ryan, Forrest Gump. Everyone's a winner, especially the gents. Stops them attacking women, keeps me in wafers. Yeah. That's the way I look at it, I'm just trying to put food on the table. I might work 8 weeks a year. I'm a saviour to the blokes around here. I think it's nice to be able to offer them a bit more than a 99.
Oh,
and Darren's laughing in the background, and Softy outs him for borrowing the tapes, and his mum ends up wiping over him with Soldier. As he says, right in the middle of Look Who's Porking, Robson Green pops up.
And I forget the context sort of like on the commentary, but like Peter Kay just sort of like points out the fact that little line there is just based on something that I'm pretty sure happens to Paddy, who just sort of like, he's watching like a blue film and it gets up to the sort of like climactic bit, and then in pops sort of like another
random
like
thing.
Another random thing that somebody's like obviously recorded over.
It's one of them as well. It's the joke sort of used in the way for the bottle now, but whole show where he's like, "Mum's tape, soldier, do not tape over."
Yeah,
and it's also sort of like bleeds into Phoenix Nights as well, because the sort of like where they film the fireworks display on Brian and Jerry's trip to America, and then sort of like it's obviously been recorded on sort of like something blue. Just like Brian knows, like Jerry's.
So we see the van drive off and try and awkwardly park in like a cul-de-sac, and her voiceover lets us know of his rival, Senor Whippy.
Oh God!
As Robert sits there and says, "That bastard's messing with tradition," as he picks his nose.
Lovely.
He's trading on my patch. I'll tell you something. If I see him, I'll bite his fucking nose off. And the cameraman says, "You can't say that." He's like, "Can't say what?"
Swearing.
I can't swear. Oh, sorry. But he's not even from here. He doesn't even live around here. He's not even Italian. He thinks he's Italian. But it's all an act for the kids and mums.
Yeah, the cameraman sort of like off screen, sort of like when Softy goes, "Yeah, he's not even Italian," and the cameraman goes, "Well, he's from Italy." It's like, well, yeah, but he's not like technically Italian. And then there's a line here where Softy goes, "If he's Italian, I'll show me arse to the Vatican."
Yeah. And he goes, "Sam plastic or something like, no one comes out that colour."
He's like, "Oh yeah, he's got his tash, he's got his colour." He's like, "I've seen him come out of fantastic, no one's that colour." And he says, "I'm not racist, so I don't care what colour they are. I played snooker with some of them." And he just goes, "Right on." And then goes on to say his accent's fake. But like, he's already given shit to the French about Peugeots and them like hating wars or whatever.
He's
so
like,
then,
full on.
We cut to Senor Whippy's van, his face blurred as he pulls his window closed, saying, do not film. And he grabs the cloth and sticks it over his face.
it's quite obvious that it's Peter Kay. They've just sort of done the digital blur on.
So then we see Softy serving a young lad. Yes, please. Cornet. Cornet what?
Cornet what? Cornet now. And Softy just goes, what, do you want a crack? Where's your manners? Were you dragged up?
But then, as he's there serving, he's like, another thing about Whoppy. Because another little thing here is that Whop is an offensive term for Italians.
Yeah.
And he keeps referring to him as Whoppy throughout it. And he calls him a lousy wop at one point, yeah.
Yeah.
And he says, I serve traditional Devonshire made with proper clotted cream, none of that whip shit that he sells. So he goes on the show proper Cornet, and the lad said, can I put my own sauce on? Can you ball? Sauce costs money. Well, Senor Whippy let us put his own sauce on. He will an order lousy wop. He'll charge you more and all. He puts a minuscule amount of sauce on, takes money from the disappointed-looking kid. He said, that's a shitty scoop, as he runs off. He's like, hey, I know where you live.
Which I like to think it sort of like inspires the Brian Potter line of, I know who you are. Who are you?
So Softy reveals he's third generation and calls out Whippy, saying you can run but you can't hide.
Oh dear God.
So then we get Softy serving a kid who asks for a Humpty Dumpty, and he's like, oh, I've not got any left and you haven't got enough money anyway. Next kid comes up, asks for a cornet. Softy notices one of his older clientele. Just says, yeah, in a minute, as he closes the window. Girl starts banging on the glass.
Bang the window.
Hey, don't bang on the glass, it's clean, that. And it's Alan.
Hey! The main thing I get out of this conversation, well, there's two things you get out of this conversation. The first thing is he asks about how him and his missus are doing, and the fact he tells Mr. Edge here that he split up with her because she's been shagging round. And he's like, who with? He says, at
least three lads.
At least three lads. One of them is the bouncer from the Neptune Club.
You have to assume it's Paddy.
Well, you have to assume, over the snooker table. Which one? The green one. That one.
The two I got with it. He's like, oh, she's been shagging around. And he said, who with? And he says, that bouncer from Neptune Club. And he said, bloke from Blockbuster. And then he says something else which I don't really catch because it's a bit sort of
muffled.
Yeah, muffled.
Yeah.
And then Softy's like, you need to start tweeting women more like David Banner. And he's like, you what? And he's like, you let him get up here. And he's like, oh right, yeah.
David, yeah, he sort of like he says David Banner, and Alan's like, who? It's like David Banner, Incredible Hulk. Don't let him get up here. And in actuality, it's Bruce Banner.
Yeah.
And he picks up the tape. That should share your broken heart. Phantom penis. Sorry, it's not rewound. And he's like, oh, great. Here, any look, we're party pissing. Thursday party pissing if I can get it. Then we just hear a kid say, look, Dad, I got sauce. So have I, son.
It's such a throwaway little line, that, though, is it? You can blink. I said to Lewis off just before we came on. It's one of them lines that if you blink, you'll miss it.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Like I remember it was one of those I didn't pick up. The very first time I watched this, never caught it. It was only like few viewings later I sort of wound it back and was like, hold on, what did he just say? He's like, sauce. I was like, sauce.
Oh yeah.
And Darren returns asking what Softy asks where he's been. He says, I've been to the shop because the van doesn't sell Soleros.
You what? I'm still up here struggling.
So he drops Darren off at his house and says he's a bit strapped after paying a fine and asks if he can pay him at the weekend. And Darren is like, yeah, I suppose. He's like, oh, I can pay you in blueies. Ha.
There's a little bit here, and it's mentioned on the commentary where Peter Kay's just like, as I'm getting in, I bang my head on the door.
Yeah.
And just sort of like, keep an eye, keep watching. And like literally, as he's getting in, he proper sort of like, it's it's in a motion of sort of like he's getting in and he goes to shut the door at the same time. So all you hear is this like this plasticky thud.
It's like the headbutt in Perspex, isn't it?
Yeah,
really?
I was about to say, if you've ever hit Perspex, that's the sound you get. Yeah, and then he says he carries on doing the rest of the scene and he's in bloody agony doing it.
But then it's like, oh yeah, we've got an early start Sunday due to the Bolton show. He's like looking about 8 o'clock, and he says, Whippy's putting a pitch. No, Darren asked him, says, oh, has Whippy put in a pitch? He said, he asked the cheeky pig, and I'll get more than he bargained for. But then as he goes to turn the engine on, it's mentioned the commentary. He does like mutters some actual gibberish, which he mentioned is about an ice cream. It's similar to an ice cream man or something he knows. He said, I don't know, I'll give a ring. But then Peter Kay makes fun of it himself in the commentary, going, Peter Kay's fat belly, give you a ring.
Yeah.
So then we jump to another Peter Kay staple as he's driving along and halfway through the joke, which has the punchline of, I said ping pong balls, not King Kong's balls.
Well, I think the setup is so the Irishman gets up to the palace and then the voiceover guy comes across, so you don't hear that sort of like little bit of the joke. And then obviously when the voiceover guy finishes, you get there. And it's like, I said it's King Kong balls, not. I said it's ping pong balls, not King Kong's balls.
So then Whippy is on Softy's patch, and we just said, a lousy bastard. He's there. I said if I saw him on here, I'd have him.
Softy goes driving off. No, not Softy. Senior Whippy goes driving off, and Softy goes into.
Oh, you drive off.
He's chasing off, and you just hear the cameraman behind him just going, "Can you slow down a bit?" And Softy just goes, "Get the balls! I'm in hot pursuit."
Then goes on to say, "You got to get one of them steady cams like Kubrick had in The Shining."
Yeah.
But then he also says, "Bet you never had this on Lakesiders," which was a docu-soap about a shopping centre in Essex.
Oh God.
But the bit with this one is because, like, of course, like ice cream vans known for going notoriously slow down streets and stuff. You can probably hear the gears and engines struggling. And so Whippy drives off for Softy has to stop for a crossing guard. And you say, "Come on, love, move! I'm in hot pursuit here, move! You stupid bloody woman, move! I'll run you over." And then he just gives up in the middle of the road.
So in the commentary, they mentioned the fact that the lollipop lady in question actually wins an award in a later episode.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Donna Gash, I believe it is.
Yeah, Donna Gash.
And the thing about it as well is that as soon as the crossing guard goes, it's like Softy goes to sort of like continue, but like the engine on his ice cream van just completely gives out, and that's why he gives up. He's just slumped over the wheel.
So we see the entrance of a takeaway, and we just hear Softy. You see Softy before you see him. Well, what do you mean? Well, that's no good. As he just turns to the guy at the takeaway and says, "Ta!" As he leaves, "That's no good." And the voiceover reveals, Senor Whippy has been given permission to sell ice cream at the show on Sunday. To which Softy retorts with, "You stupid set of bastards."
Yeah.
That's what you are. Hello. Throws his phone in a nearby bin and kicks the bin before sticking his foot in the bin and tipping it over. Followed by, "You stupid set of bastards."
To which point he throws his tea across the floor. Like, he swings his carrier bag and it just bursts across the floor.
It's worth mentioning as well, like through this entire scene, it's just sort of like everyday sort of like men and women, just sort of like regular pedestrians, are just sort of like walking past, and they sort of make mention on the commentary that sort of like after they finish filming, they had to sort of like rush off after them, sort of like get the sort of like, you know, the release forms, is just sort of like make sure it's okay for them to appear on the show when it's officially released.
Yeah.
So yeah, he throws his takeaway, presumably with the bin but misses, and sends what looks like curry onto the pavement, followed up by, "You stupid bastards."
Yeah, it looks like curry and rice, even though it's sort of like it looks as if the takeaway is just sort of like a pizza and kebab shop.
Yeah.
So then they've just not got a clue as he picks up his broken Nokia and throws it to the floor into his food. 35 years my dad sold ice cream on the streets. 35 years. There were people like that refused him a bed. Oh no, sorry. You've got to go home to die. We've no room for you here. Well, fuck 'em all. And Whoppy, he wants a war. He's got a war.
Fucking hell.
I will say this, it's just sort of like Peter Kay's sort of like acting of just showing like real anger and aggression, I thought was fucking top notch here.
Yeah,
really fucking top notch. Like it felt sort of like there was a believability that he was sort of like, you know, completely fucking ticked off.
Oh yeah,
it was tremendous. It was really, really good.
Yeah, it came across like he really had been pushed over the edge.
Mm.
Well, it's so after this part, we'll cut to Softy Top sat in what looks like a beer garden with his ice cream van in the background, talking about his dad.
He's all calm now. He's all...
that pint's a good pint, premium lager.
I love the fact as well. It's just sort of like, you know, he's obviously sort of like sat in a beer garden, and then sort of like in the very background you can see the ice cream van, but sort of like in front of the ice cream van is sort of like a kid's playground, and you can sort of see in sort of like the top right hand corner there's sort of like a couple of parents there, and they're fucking fagging up on this like children's playground. Because you can just see freaking smoke billowing from the background.
I miss that.
To be fair, it was a different time 20 years ago.
Yeah,
you could go on there and smoke.
1999, 2000.
Yeah, this was pre-smoking ban. So, you know, this back in the day when you could smoke in pubs and things like that. I mean, literally the only places where you couldn't really smoke was in supermarkets and shops and things like that. I mean, even restaurants had smoking and no smoking sections at one point. Yeah. You know, so... Yeah, it's something. It's almost like a time capsule in a way as well, of like a bygone sort of like thing. Well, Lewis has changed. Hi, Lewis.
It's fine. Keep going.
Yeah. But yeah, I completely lost my train of thought now. Yeah, I missed that bit.
Softy's in his garden.
Yeah, Softy's in the
beer garden.
Yeah, he's in the beer garden with the playground in the background. Yeah, I completely missed the fact that the two mums were smoking in the background.
Yeah. It is kind of one of the things I think you have to look for, because I just noticed it was like a playground, and it's like, right, he's in a beer garden, they just set up like a table in a park and gone, sit here and look like you're in a beer garden.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Could be, yeah.
So he talks about his dad and how much of an ice cream he was loved as an ice cream man. The cameraman asked, what do you think made him so special? He said, well, for a kickoff, you like kids. And you don't. No, they make his job a misery, kids. Bane of my life. But then, do you know what they used to do to my dad? They used to slap the back of his van and lay on the road, pretend to have been run over. They pretend to lie there in agony while he's handed free mini milks for the serving hatch. Fell for it every time. That was his problem. Lovely man, soft as shite. They won't do that to me though. I hear a bang on the back of the van and see him lying in the street. Tell you something. They better get the power back in the legs before I reverse. Bye-bye Sunday football practice.
Yeah. He's such an angry man.
So we move to the exterior of a takeaway called Kibaralon. As music from the film Taxi Driver starts playing, and we cut to inside where Softy Top is working out, along with Shadow scooping ice cream.
Yeah.
With a scoop holster attached to his arm, whilst in a vest and Y fronts, and also his jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah, they make mention on the commentary as just sort of like Peter Kay praising the director, I should say, for sort of like
taking the piss out of Apocalypse. Well, basically, they were taking the piss out of Apocalypse Now and
Apocalypse
Taxi Driver.
Taxi Driver, and sort of when you watch the scene, sort of like particularly with the wide shot, just sort of like Softy doing his sort of like dancing routine with like a bottle of whiskey in his hand. It's sort of like the lighting, especially, it did remind me quite a bit of Apocalypse Now.
Yeah,
which was a nice little touch, I thought.
Well, there is the a line which sort of factors into Apocalypse Now, but it was just funny to me. Like he's got like this, he's got like that sort of scoop thing on his arm, and he's just doing this sort of going through the motion of doing an ice cream. It was just making it pissing myself out. And
he's got sort of like a little sort of like thing of like a hidden blade, which just sort of like, you know, you'd see sort of like Assassin's Creed games.
Yeah,
and
he's taped a bit of pipe to his forearm.
Yeah, he just puts his ice cream scoop in there and just sort of like, you know, whips it out as if he's got sort of like one of those like switchblades or whatever.
Yeah.
So we do get a line from Softy at this point, which is ice cream. Ice cream. I love the smell of raspberry in the morning. The longer I stay in this flat, the weaker I get. The longer Whoppy sits in his van, the stronger he gets.
Yeah.
So he swigs from a bottle of whiskey and covered himself in the mirroring sauce, which he did reveal. He's like, oh, I've still got that vest, and it's still covered in raspberry sauce.
And he was selling it off at a recent charity auction.
But that was like 15 years ago. So
yeah,
someone somewhere in the world probably still has that hung up in a cupboard somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Or they washed it.
So we also get a close up of an ice cream and cone and scoop tattoo on his arm as well.
Oh yes,
I missed that.
Yeah, it's a really shit ice cream sundae tattoo.
He's pouring the sauce onto the mirror and sort of playing with it. And you see on like his like right arm, there's like a shitty tattoo of an ice cream cone.
Yeah.
So then we see a bottle of Bell's whiskey on the floor. We get the bottle of raspberry sauce that drops from his hand and rolls under the bed, which fades to black.
It's sort of like an indicator that he's sort of like passed out.
Yes.
And then you cut to sort of like the cameraman rushing up these stairs that seem to be sort of like at the back of the Babylon place, which sort of leads up to Softy's flat. And the voiceover guy goes, "It's 9:30 and Softy still isn't up." And then you just have the cameraman just sort of like banging on the door, and Softy sort of like opens up, and he's still in sort of like a vest with sort of like all the red sauce down him, just looking at the cameraman bewildered. And the cameraman just goes, "It's 9:30. Softy just goes, "Oh shit."
Then he's driving into the show and he's, "Why didn't you ring me up?" And he goes, "You broke your phone."
You broke your phone. I'll break your bloody neck.
That's what I'll break.
Such an angry man.
He spots Senior Whippy. He said, "The bastard's got the best spot. Look at that lousy wop." But then Whippy just waves as he passes. And then he finds Darren. He's like, "Why didn't you get that spot? Why are you parked over here?" And Darren's like, "We should have been here hours ago."
Besides the point.
So then we get a quick montage of people setting up the stalls and people setting up the games and stuff. We see Softy over by the army still lining up in like an AK-47 or something like that.
Yeah, and then he goes into like an army recruitment sort of.
It's like
the infantry stand or something. He's got his papers and you're like going to get info.
Yeah, infantry recruiting centre, I think it was.
Yeah.
So the camera tries to again catch Whippy, who closes and tries to cover his face with the same cloth from before.
Jesus.
Considering he's got like, we see there is like a picture at one point of Softy with with Whippy with like a big queue, and you hear the voiceover of like, like Mr. Softy Top is like resorting to drastic measures. He's walking back towards the camera with a picture of Paul Leroy.
Yes, Paul Leroy from Shorty FM.
He's back and he's got a more prominent role. And that's not saying much.
Well, at first it sounds like Softy Top might have chucked him a few quid to advertise him. And he says, "Softy Top won't try and fob you off with any of that fobbing muck laced with chemicals."
Yeah.
He's like, this goes out to Senor Whippy from Mr. Softy Top, which is Robert De Niro's waiting by Bananarama.
Yeah.
But then we see him pick up like a handful of tapes that he's been given. He starts looking through them.
He puts it in sort of like the record case, are just sort of like that, looking a little bit shifty from side to side.
How you doing, Louis?
Softy then unveils his secret weapon of a double cone. Twice the ice for half the price. And now has a bigger queue than Senior Whippy.
Yeah.
And then there's sort of like a fade, and then it cuts back in, and sort of like the very first shot, you can see sort of like a great big massive like cross, like a Christian cross, sort of like the middle of the shot. That'll be a call. Well, it'll be a callback. It's a reference. It's
foreshadowing for a future episode.
Yeah, it's a foreshadowing for a future episode.
No.
Which is mentioned on commentary.
I believe it's episode 5.
Yes, it is, because the next one's the arena.
Arena.
So, so we got another montage set to some Wham. We jump back to a big queue at Mr. Softy Top's van as he's running out of ice cream. He tells Darren to run to the shop and get some more ice creams and flakes. He said, "How many? Take 20. Get me 15.
No 20.
No,
take
20,
20 and make sure you get a receipt." And then literally Darren's back like before you know it.
Like, car won't start.
And Softy's like, God, you're quick. And Darren's like, "Oh, I've not been." It's like, "You've not been? How come you've not been?" It's like, "The car won't start." It's like, "Oh, bloody hell. He'll have to go to the spa." It's like, "That's miles away." It's like, I know, but you know, I can't serve Angle.
But it's that thing of like, "I've got a queue." I can't leave a queue, can I? That sort of thing. And then he says, "You have to go to the spa." And he's like, "Oh, it's miles away." And he's like, "Well, you're gonna have to run." But he says, "Run like Mel Gibson in Gallipoli."
God. But then remember as well, Softy recommended that you get a Ford.
Mm-hmm.
And he's letting him down now.
So then we get another fade, and it's revealed that Softy is now rationing the ice cream as an angry customer demands he put some ice cream in. The kid looking at the raspberry sauce as it drips sauce off their ice cream onto the counter. He takes the sauce to the kids, say, "You look at your eyes, not your hands."
That's why it's chained up.
That's why it's on a chain. So Darren returns. He's like, "Oh, finally. Just a minute, love." Opens the tub. "What's this? Milk?"
Oh, it's all melted because it took so long to get back to the van.
To be fair, it's not sort of like complete. It's not like complete liquid. Like you could probably say if you chucked it in the freezer and sort of like gave it sort of like 10-15 minutes, it'd probably be okay.
Oh, I don't know about that. Have you ever had melted it's like ice cream? It's shit. I've got to put it back in the freezer. You put it in the freezer. Yeah, and a few hours later, you'll pull it back out, and it's like a cinder block. You need a hammer and chisel to get into it. So you wouldn't be able to scoop it up. It would be, yeah. It had like sort of it was like that aloe vera drink I had on podcast last time I did Rab. It had lumps in it. It like milk with icy lumps.
Lovely.
What it was.
So Darren says, "I came as quick as I could," and he says, "Looks like it." "No, what the fuck are these?" As he's bought crunchies rather than flakes. And the customers say, "Can you mind your language, please?" They didn't have any flakes. As we start to see Robert's breakdown of, "I wanted flakes," and then he comes up with my favourite line, which always has me absolutely pissing myself, is, "I can't make nice eyes with fucking crunchies, can I?"
And again, the same customers just sort of like, "Can you mind your language, please?" And Softy just goes, "You want ice cream? Yeah, I'll have ice cream." And he just takes a tub and tips it all over it.
Well, I think Peter Kay likes that line as well, Coxy, because it's actually the name of the segment where this is. It's actually, when you go on the menu, you can pick which scene you want to watch.
Yeah.
Well, this is the last scene, and it's called 99 with Crunchies.
Well, actually, he does call the woman a stupid bitch. He goes, "Here, have some then, you stupid bitch." And he chucks melted ice cream on her, grabs a box of cones and throws them at the camera and says, "Fuck off." It's like, "All of you, get out of here." Which then he goes into full-on meltdown with, "Fucking don't need this, do I?" As he starts lobbing sauce and melted ice cream around. "Bastard! Fuck! Jesus Christ!" As he flings melted ice cream around.
Yeah, it's just covering the ice cream from the inside.
But then, as we hear from the voiceover, the day has been a disaster for Mr. Softy Top. Senor Whippy has won the ice cream war. Whipped has beaten Scooped.
I love that line. Whipped has beaten Scooped.
A long queue for Senor Whippy. Then Paul Leroy's wife is seen loading the van as he signs autographs. As he turns to Ben, use your knees. Bend your knees.
Put it in sideways. Put the speaker in sideways.
Senor Whippy heads for home and Mr. Softy Top contemplates his future as the credits roll. And then we get another throwback with Alan from the ARC.
Yay!
From the services.
He's there fixing the Fiesta for Darren.
He also asks Darren, what's the matter with him? He's like, oh, I'd leave him alone if I were you, mate. He's having a bit of a breakdown, if you know what I mean.
Breakdown. I know all about them.
Tell him to give me a call. Then, as I notice here, where he's like, Softy Top sort of sat on like the step of his van. He seems to have like a taxi driver T-shirt on under his jacket.
Yeah, it's mentioned on commentary that you can see De Niro poking out.
Yeah, you can just sort of see like De Niro's like head, like the mohawk from Taxi Driver, which I thought was like a nice little nod. But then Darren's like, "What are you thinking?" He's like, "Oh, thinking of hanging up my scoops."
And then cut to the next week. Next week, Senior Whippy's secret is exposed, and you just see him being pulled over by the police, shoved into the back of a police van, and then just sort of like
the headlines,
sort of like zoom out from sort of like a newspaper article that's Senior Whippy in illegal immigrant shock.
Yeah.
But as we also find out, Darren gets a promotion, and also Senior Whippy's van.
Wait, how did he go about getting his van? That's what
stole it. But then we also get, it's a new hardcore career for Mr. Softy Top as he's opening Softy's Hard Stuff. As he's outside going where the real money is. Adult art. Porn again, eh?
And then he's still got an advertisement sign for ice cream, and he's just sort of like, I've still got to put my hand in, still got to offload 400 litres of these.
Well, he also says, "Oh, do you hear about Whoppy?" He said, "Italian from Barnsley." Always said there was something funny about him. That's next week when the ice cream man cometh. And that's our episode.
It is. That was that.
It is.
God. So what did we think?
Well, I know this is a particular favourite of Coxy's. I know that this episode is held in regard as being the best of that Peter Kay thing. But I've got to say that I enjoyed the Bingo Hall episode a lot more than I did this one. And don't get me wrong, I still thought this was really darn good. And I thought it was good given the amount of sort of like, well, the fact that there's not too many sort of like main characters that are featured in this episode.
I mean, Peter Kay only plays 3 characters in it in theory.
Yeah. So there's like, I quite like the fact that, you know, although it's sort of like the least members of cast, they're still able to get like a lot of material out of it. And I still enjoyed the episode, don't get me wrong, but I enjoyed last week's episode a little bit more.
Yeah, I have to concur. To the point where, I'll be honest with you, there was genuinely parts of it I did not enjoy. There was parts where I just didn't find it that particularly funny, but obviously there were parts where I was absolutely pissing my sides. So I would say I'm a little bit conflicted maybe to say it was, you know, I enjoyed it per se. It weren't bad. The bits that were funny were really funny, but yeah, I don't know. I can't say I 100% enjoyed this episode, but like I say, it's got the reputation of like being like the best episode.
Do you think that might have sort of like soured it a little bit? for you?
Maybe there was a bit of build-up for me, and it was sort of put on a pedestal that didn't quite reach the heights of. But I concur with you. I preferred the 2 episodes that we've watched previously. I mean, I've watched Services as well, and yeah, Services was okay. It was better than this, but definitely At the Club and Eyes Down were better. Much better, in my opinion.
See, for me, I feel that the episodes that we watched so far, Services is at the bottom. Actually, In the Club is third. And then I'd say Ice Cream Man Cometh is second. And then the Eyes Down has been my favourite so far. As I say, I don't think this is necessarily... I enjoyed watching this episode. I thought it was a good episode. But I feel that given the reputation that it has, I felt it sort of like built it up a little bit too much for me.
Yeah, it didn't deliver on the high power that I had on it. If I'm brutally honest with you, it's good. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. It's good. It's a lot better than a lot of the shit I've watched.
Yeah.
So to quote a line from a show, "You stupid set of bastards."
Fuck the lot of you. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. If I'm going to give it a rate, if we're going to give ratings out of 10, I would give it a 6. For me, there's moments in it that are enjoyable, but for me, there was a lot of bits that it was like, okay.
Yeah, this was the episode for me that sort of got me into P2K, because I had a friend at college. I think I've explained this story before, but I had a friend at college who he got the DVD on like a newspaper or something. He's like, "Oh, you need to watch it. It's quite funny."
Yeah.
And the episode, it was like free DVD of episode like that Peter Kay thing, the Ice Cream Man come up. So I watched it. And it was like, yeah, it's really funny. And of course, it came out on DVD and I bought it. Or got it for Christmas or something. And it's just always been my favourite episode ever since, because I love his fucking meltdown at the end of, "I want flakes. I can't make 9 times with fucking crunchies, can I?"
Yeah, to be fair, that was hilarious. I mean, all of his meltdowns, because of the way, I think it's the way, all the meltdowns in this episode were fucking amazing. They were funny. And that's because Peter Kay is very good at portraying someone who's pissed off. Anytime Brian Potter's pissed off in Phoenix Nights, it's always funny. It's always funny. You know, anytime I've seen Peter Kay pissed off in like drive car share and things like that, it's really funny. Speaking of car share, actually, there is a little bit of an Easter egg in car share, which is relevant. At one point in one of the series, I don't know which one it is, I've seen a screenshot, but there's a modern ice cream van with Mr. Softy top across the front, and it's pink and white.
Oh.
And it's in car share. So, yeah, if you are watching car share, you need to get your eagle eyes out and get looking for it, because it's there.
Right, okay.
So, if we feel brave enough one day, maybe I'll, look it up.
See, I'm not overly keen on car shares, because like the sort of the whole premise of the episode is you could literally because they did a radio special for it, didn't they?
Yes.
Which is, to me, you could do that for every episode and you wouldn't miss anything.
I beg to differ watching it. There's certain gags that
you're looking for the visual gag, though, to be fair, but in terms of two people in a car,
there's that, but there's also the sort of thing for example, there's a bit in car share where they're doing the is it the works party, and they're coming home, and there's a big transgender bloke sort of dressed as Smurfette.
It's basically the guy who plays Varys, the Lord of Whispers in Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Yeah, he's dressed up as Smurfette from the Smurfs.
Yeah.
In the episode.
And I don't think that would come across as well just as in an audio form.
No.
I think that it's infinitely better the way it is on screen, and I genuinely think it works well. Even like I say, you think, it's just two people talking in a car. It's amazing how much it fills half an hour, though, and how much material they can get out of it to the point where they did 12 episodes of it.
I think I think it helps as well that the chemistry between Peter Kay and can't remember the name of the actress off the top of my head.
Sean Gibson.
Sean Gibson, that's it. I think it helps that those two have got like really good chemistry together, and they sort of bounce off each other quite well, which I think is sort of like, I think it's like half of the, that's like half of the show. I think for me, it's sort of like not only the content that they're talking about, which is sort of like, you know, very Peter Kay in that it's like relatable to, you know, the general public, but also that they've got sort of like the chemistry to get across the sort of like nowadays, you know, nowadays activity.
Yeah, there's an episode as well that they did out of the 12, which was completely unscripted. Don't know if you've seen it. It's just fucking brilliant. They're just riffing for half an hour driving around in a car, essentially. And it's absolutely amazing. And that's with no set pieces, no nothing. So it's what I would recommend Car Share.
Yeah,
I really would.
I'd recommend it. I wouldn't say it's sort of like the best of sort of like Peter Kay's work.
Oh no.
But it is very enjoyable if you're sort of like looking for
more Peter Kay.
If you're looking for sort of like more Peter Kay, it's definitely a yeah. I'd say it's a good show to sort of like check out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even though we're doing that Peter Kay thing, which, you know, is another sort of like TV series that I could definitely recommend from the episodes that I watched so far.
And the best thing about the Car Share thing is it's all free on the iPlayer.
Mm-hmm.
It's all
there you go,
on iPlayer. It's free.
Yep.
So get it watched. There's no reason why you shouldn't.
So that's been the Ice Cream Man Cometh, episode 3 of that Peter Kay thing.
Aye.
Join us next week. Well, not next week, week after, for episode 4, which is the Arena.
Which I'm looking forward to.
I will say, if you've got the DVD and you haven't watched the pilot episode of The Services, I recommend watching that before you watch the Arena, because I sort of like because I've sort of like gone a couple of episodes further. I'll say that I look at the Arena as sort of like somewhat of a continuation from The Services.
Right.
There are a couple of characters that do feature in this next episode.
Right. Yeah. I'll make sure I watch it again. Just to get the full context.
Yep.
Right. So there we go.
Yep.
All right. It's plug time, boys.
Yep. If you like hearing me, you can hear me on the RAD Live podcast. We're on all the good podcast catchers out there, such as Apple Music, iTunes, whatever it's called nowadays, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, you name it, we're on there. You can find us on Twitter at UKRAD Podcast. We are also on Facebook, which I want to start using a bit more. But you can also find on Twitter my alter ego, Steve, as Steve the Betrayer, at Steve AOT GTMP, who also appears on the podcast Gunpowder, Treason, No Plot, where you can find them at Treason No.
My little side gig of sort of basically taking Coxy's Lost Art of Wrestling platform and just sort of like combining WrestleBox to make the Lost Art of WrestleBox, where we've been doing a lot of New Japan Pro Wrestling and National Wrestling Alliance stuff during the COVID-19 period.
And can I just stop you there for a second and just say congratulations on cracking the top 40 at some point for the sports podcasts?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, somehow. I don't know how, to be honest with you. Well, I think I know how because we did mention it in the group chat. We are. I do realise sort of like Coxy had a schedule that we were going to do, and I do apologise profusely, but you know it's my fault for burning myself out on too much wrestling, and I needed sort of like a week or two's break. But we are going to be recording at some point this week the first night 1 of Wrestle Kingdom 14, which is just basically New Japan Pro Wrestling's version of WrestleMania. So that will be dropped in sort of like the next couple of weeks or so. And as I say, we've got the back catalogue of sort of like the 4 or 5 episodes that we've done so far. So they're available on the Lost Art of Wrestling podcast feed, whether it be Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, Apple Music, Castbox, Podbean, and all good podcasting sites. And make sure that you follow the Lost Art of Wrestling on Facebook and Twitter to keep up to date with when the new episodes drop. And also as well, I'm possibly going to be going to start game streaming or game playing live on Twitch potentially, because I'm involved in sort of like a gaming Discord group, and it sort of inspired me a little bit to like maybe start streaming, but I'm not 100% sure yet. So if I do, then be sure to follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/loggers109. And I might start streaming at some point in the next week or two.
Awesome. What are you thinking of playing?
Well, I'm a great big massive fan of the Yakuza series, and I've already played 0, 1, and 2, and the remastered collection is sort of like available online for sort of like £33. So I'm thinking of like playing my way through all 3 of them games, and possibly streaming it while I do it.
Sounds good to me.
Cool. And of course, you can find the Lost Art of Podcasting and the Phoenix Pod on Facebook at Lost Art of Podcasting. We're on Twitter at Lost Art Podcast. And you can find us on Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Castbox. You name it, we're on it. iHeartRadio. Places
here and there.
Morse code.
Morse code.
And of course, you can find our sister podcast, The Lost Art of Wrestling, on Facebook or on Twitter at LAOW Podcast. What on anywhere else?
All good podcasting sites.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And if we're not, let us know, and then we'll get straight on it.
Why are you not on Betamax?
Because it's not fucking known, and that's why.
I'm one day waiting for someone to email and be like, why are you not on vinyl? And it's like,
that'll be one way of listening to us.
Give me enough money, it'll happen. I'll find a way.
That would be a cool giveaway, wouldn't it? Can you imagine having the first ever episode of Lost Art of Podcasting on vinyl?
Lost Art of Vinyl.
Lost Art of Vinyl, there you
Lost
go.
Art of Vinyl. There you go.
There you are.
Marketing promotion. Think tank new.
Get an armchair superstore.
Upcoming episodes, with Lost Art of Wrestling, we've got the Lost Art of Wrestle box. We opened the box once again for Wrestle Kingdom Night 1. We've got this episode, which of course you'll be listening to because it's out on Friday. And there's other stuff dropping in the with future dates. I think, when's our AD recording next?
As soon as I possibly can fit it in. So
there you go. Cool.
So, yeah.
Well, for the Phoenix Pod, I've been AXC.
I've been the stupid, sexy one, Paul Flinders.
And I've been the stowaway Lewis Ogden.
And we'll see you next time at the arena. Ta-ra!
Testing.
Ta-ra.
1, 2, 1, 2.
I want flakes.
Not crunches.
He wants a war, we'll give him a war.